Hello and good day Level 1. I'm Ms. Kayanan, your clinical instructor for Module 4 Integumentary System. Before we start, I'd like to ask, what do you think when you look at your skin in the mirror? Do you think about covering it with makeup, adding a tattoo, or maybe a body piercing? Or do you think about the fact that the skin belongs to one of the body's most essential and dynamic system, the integumentary system? The integumentary system, this refers to the skin and its accessory structures, and it is responsible for more than simply lending to your outward appearance. This module will introduce the structure and functions of the integumentary system as well as some of the diseases, disorders, and injuries that can affect this system. Let's start. Let's first discuss about the general function of the integumentary system. Do you believe in the saying, beauty is skin deep? Well, there is more to that saying if you keep in mind the general functions of the integumentary system. First is we have protection. The skin protects us from injury, and it also protects us from any infection. It also protects us from the harmful ultraviolet rays, and it regulates water loss, which prevents us from dehydration. Second is it has sensory receptors that can detect heat, cold, touch, pressure, and pain. Third is we have temperature regulation. The amount of blood flow through the skin and the activity of the sweat glands help regulates the body's temperature. This will aid in body heat loss or heat retention and is controlled by the nervous system. Fourth is we have vitamin D production. Vitamin D is an important regulator of calcium homeostasis. It is synthesized through modified cholesterol in the skin by the sunlight. Fifth is we have excretion. The skin aids in excretion of urea and uric acid through perspiration. This is what we call as sweat, and this is produced by the sweat glands. Let's discuss about the body membranes and its type. We have 4 body membranes, but first let's define what is a membrane. A membrane lines body cavities and covers the viscera. When you say viscera, this pertains to the internal organs. 1. We have the mucous membrane or the mucosa. This lines passageways open to the external environment. Next is we have the serous membrane or the serosa. This pertains to the internal membrane that covers the organs and lines the walls of the cavities. It forms smooth outer surface in some organs, and it is composed of a simple squamous epithelium. Examples are the pleura of the lungs, the pericardium of the heart, and the peritoneum of the abdomen. Next is the synovial membrane. It forms the inner lining of the joint cavities. It secretes a thick fluid called the synovial fluid. Example of this is the one in your kneecap. Lastly is the cutaneous membrane. It is the externalmost membrane, and it is also called as the skin, in which we will tackle more as we go over to the next part of the discussion. Next is we're going to tackle about skin, structures, and function. The skin is composed of 2 kinds of tissue, the outer epidermis and the underlying dermis. Epidermis is composed of stratified squamous epithelium, and that is capable of keratinizing or becoming hard and tough. So its composition, it is composed of 5 layers or strata. From inside out, we have the stratum basale, spinosum, granulosum, lucidum, and the corneum. Like all other epithelial tissues, the epidermis is avascular. That is, it has no blood supply. Most cells of the epidermis are keratinocytes, which produce keratin, which is a fibrous protein that makes the epidermis a tough protective layer. The epidermis is composed of several types of cells. Most cells of the epidermis are called keratinocytes. Keratinocytes, they produce a protein mixture called keratin, which makes the cells more durable. Keratinocytes give the epidermis its ability to resist abrasion and reduce water loss. Other cells of the epidermis includes melanocytes. Melanocytes, which contributes to skin color and produces melanin. Langerhans cells, which are a part of the immune system, will be discussed in Chapter 22. Merkel cells, which are specialized epidermal cells associated with the nerve endings, which is also responsible for detecting light, touch, and superficial pressure. Okay, so let's go deeper. We all know that keratinization is a continual process, and distinct to that continual process is a transitional change, which can be recognized as cells change. So on the basis of these changes, there are layers of cells in the epidermis which are divided into regions or strata. So now we're going to discuss the different layers or strata of the epidermis. Remember that the number of cell layers in each stratum and even the number of strata in the skin vary depending on their location in the body. Let us first discuss the first strata. Stratum basale is the deepest portion of the epidermis, and it is composed of a single layer of cuboidal or columnar cell. It is also called a stratum germinativum, and its structural strength is provided by the hemidesmosomes, which anchors the epidermis to the basement membrane, and the desmosomes, which holds the keratinocytes. Keratinocytes are strengthened internally by the keratin fibers. Keratinocyte stem cells of the stratum basale will undergo mitotic division approximately every 19 days. So this means one daughter cell remains a stem cell in the stratum basale and divides again, but the other daughter cell is pushed towards the surface and becomes keratinized. It takes approximately 40 to 56 days for the cell to reach the epidermal surface and slump. Next is the stratum spinosum. It is superficial to the stratum basale, and it consists of 8 to 10 layers of many-sided cells. As the cells in this stratum are pushed to the surface, they flatten. Desmosomes break apart and new desmosomes form. During the preparation for microscopic observation, the cells usually shrink from one another except where they are attached by desmosomes, causing the cells to appear spiny, hence the name stratum spinosum. Additional keratin fibers and lipid-filled membrane-bound organelles called lamellar bodies form inside the keratinocytes. The third layer is stratum granulosum. This consists of 2 to 5 layers of somewhat flattened, diamond-shaped cells with long axes that are oriented parallel to the surface of the skin. This stratum derives its name from the presence of non-membrane-bound protein granules of keratohyalin, which accumulate in the cytoplasm of the cell. The lamellar bodies formed as the cell passes through the stratum spinosum, move to the plasma membrane, and release their lipid contents into the extracellular space. Inside the cell, a protein envelope forms beneath the plasma membrane. In most superficial layer of the stratum granulosum, the nucleus and other organelles degenerate and the cell dies. Unlike other organelles and the nucleus, however, the keratin fibers and the keratohyalin granules with the cytoplasm do not degenerate. Fourth is stratum lucidum. It appears as a thin, clear zone above the stratum granulosum. it consists of several layers of dead cells with indistinct boundaries. In here, keratin fibers are present, but the keratohyalin, which was evident as granules in the stratum granulosum, has dispersed around the keratin fibers, and the cells appears somewhat transparent. The stratum lucidum is present only a few areas of the body. And lastly, stratum corneum. It is the last and most superficial stratum of the epidermis. This stratum is composed of 25 or more layers of dead, overlapping squamous cells joined by desmosomes. Eventually, the desmosomes break apart and the cells are shed from the surface of the skin. Excessive shedding of the stratum corneum of the scalp results in dandruff. Less noticeably, skin cells are continually shed from other areas of the clothes rubbed against the body or as the skin is washed. This also consists of cornified cells, which are dead cells with a hard protein envelope filled with the protein keratin. Keratin is a mixture of keratin fibers and the keratohyalin. The envelope and the keratin are responsible for the structural strength of the stratum corneum. The type of keratin found in the skin is soft keratin. Another type of keratin, which is the hard keratin, is found in the nails and the external parts of the hair. Cells containing hard keratin are more durable than cells with soft keratin, and they are not shed. Lipids are released from the lamellar bodies surrounding the skin. The lipids are responsible for many of the skin's permeability characteristics. Next is skin is classified as thick or thin based on the structure of the epidermis. Thick skin has all 5 epithelial strata, and the stratum corneum has many layers. It is found in areas subject to pressure or friction, such as the palm of the hand, the soles of the feet, and the fingertips. While thin skin covers the rest of the body and is more flexible than thick skin. Each of its strata contains fewer layers of cells than are found in thick skin. Stratum granulosum frequently consists of only 1 or 2 layers of cells, and the stratum lucidum is generally absent. Hair is found only in thin skin. Thick and thin skin could also result from conditions, so like callus. Callus are found in thickened areas in the body. It is caused by number 1, friction or pressure, and number 2, an increase in stratum corneum. but callus is not painful. Number 2, we have corn. Corn are developed over a bony prominence, and it is a cone-shaped structure, and it is painful.